قاعد أشوف وجوه جديدة اليوم الأخير للأسف من ملتقى كلمتين. مثل ما كان أمس بيكون اليوم مواضيع دسمة، حوارات دسمة، حلقات نقاشية دسمة، وراح نبديها بشيء دسم إن شاء الله. البانل ديسكشن عندنا عن Transformative Power of Community Initiatives. راح تدير الحوار حوراء خلفان. حوراء هاي شلونك؟ شو اخبارك؟ حياك، تفضلي. موجودين، زين. أشوى. وراح تحاور عبد العزيز الربيع. ليش خليتهم يكتبون اسمك بالانجليزي؟ بالانجليزي ما اقدر اعرف التشكيل. يعطيك العافيه. نحط تشكيل. حياك. وجواهر البدر. جواهر حياك. تحطوا لي الصوره ما عليكم امر عشان كل واحد يعرف وين يقعد. ومن المجلس الوطني عبدالله صالح ياسين. طبعا الحين بتطلع الصورة وتلقون كل واحد قاعد بمكان الثاني، ما عليه. كمل ليلى. تفضل حياك.
Thank you. I agree, by the way. I had to interview 5 people to get. So, اليوم احنا ودنا نسولف عن the importance and the transformative power of community initiatives and the impact that they have when we do have them and when we collectively practice that kind of power as a country and as a community in Kuwait. فعندنا incredible people when it comes to community building and when it comes to how we can apply small practices to change the way people think about big-scale projects and national projects for creativity and art. So, when we talk about transforming communities, احنا نقدر نتكلم about studio spaces such as Studio Kilmitain, for example, and Art Studio. And we can actually zoom out a little bit and talk about the National Council of Arts and Letters and the kind of impact they're trying to create, the ripples they're trying to create actually, when it comes to creativity and Kuwaiti, or actually artists in Kuwait, not just Kuwaiti artists. So I'd love to introduce them to you first before we dive deep into the conversations. First of all, we have Abdulaziz Al-Rabea / El-Shaheen, whichever you'd prefer. Abdulaziz is an artist first, and that's a common theme that we're going to find here tonight, is that everyone on this stage is an artist first, and that's why we got into community building to begin with. He is a lab technician at Studio Kilmitain, and his work heavily focuses on identity and memory. صح? Correct me if I'm wrong. No, I'm not wrong.
Correct.
Awesome. Then we have Dr. Jawaher Al-Bader. She is an artist first, surprise, and an architect and founder of Art Studio in Kuwait, which is a communal creative space. صح? Is that a good way to describe it? Thank you. I did my job. And then we have Abdullah Yassin. He is artist first, and a project manager at the National Council for Arts and Letters. And the project I'm referring to is الفن الثالث. So please give it up for all 3 speakers here tonight. وأنا منو? Thank you for asking. أنا حوراء. I'm a community leader and business owner at Arts in Kuwait, where we do creative things because we didn't find the thing we needed, so we made it work and we made it happen. And I actually thrive on community experiences, and I'm so honored. Thank you for the Kilmitain team to like actually choosing us to put this talk together, because it's a very important topic to be discussing. I'm going to start with Abdulaziz Al-Shaheen. راح اختار ايه ما راح اضيعكم وايد كلش. So your work focuses on memory and identity. I'm curious about what printing techniques that you value using to send these messages.
يعطيكم العافية أولاً، شكراً للحضور. سؤال حورة is very heavy, and then when we talk about memory and identity, I see it as something that is fragile, something that we often can be forgotten or stained أو يعني نتذكر منه أشياء بسيطة. We don't always recollect our memory in a good way. I was always inclined towards history and understanding why am I here and how am I here. And it reflected in a way with the type of printing I went for. I was always a photographer, I always did photography, but I found out historical mediums to explore as well at the same time and express my identity and the memory I experience, such as cyanotype and Van Dyck, liquid emulsion. All those are like, I'll be talking a lot of technical stuff, but I don't want to overwhelm you with technicalities. But this is how I see it, like having something that is also, in terms of printing, also fragile, just like the memory, because we're not creating perfect prints. We're creating prints that have a forensic, let's say, a forensic stamp, something that is personal to you, a brushstroke, for example, that could go terribly wrong. And at the end, you're out with something extremely unique, unlike any type of printing. This is something that is specific, something that you're intimate with at the end. So this is how I see it. This is why I'm inclined towards this type of printing.
So interesting, because I feel like with clouds being a thing now, memory is a thing. We don't even have to, we don't have to rely on our brains for memory. Most of the time when someone's saying memory, they're referring to their phone or their, whatever cloud storage that they have. So it's beautiful to see that there's like a kind of a revert of what memory is when it comes to art for you.
Yeah, definitely. Also, something else to mention that I do have this dual identity of being from somewhere else, مو بس من الكويت. I do have this Egyptian in me as well, so I'm always in between of sharing and finding ways to express this identity. So I.
Sorry, أنا سويت شيء لأن إحنا قعدنا صح.
All right, perfect. With the mug shot.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, keep going.
So yeah, I do find expressing it in those ways as something very unique. It's like something that is unlike anything else.
But I feel like these kinds of approaches are kind of unapproachable because it's technical. Like they're what you've mentioned is very technical, and I know that you have a background in engineering, and that's what kind of drives it to be small, like you can, not small, but figure outable words. I'm a writer, by the way. So how do you think that your ability to take your engineering background feeds into teaching these kinds of skills, let's say, in Studio Kilmitain?
Yeah. I can come here and lie and say that engineering made me a structured person, but I just wanted to escape. I did not. I wouldn't say that I didn't like engineering, but I feel like whatever I do, I tend to do it in a good way. Maybe I don't want to say perfectionist, but sometimes this is something I tend to do. Like people that work with me did face this thing. But I don't preach for perfectionism, especially when I give workshops and I tell people to embrace how bad something might look, but there's a lot of meaning behind this and a lot of things to learn moving forward from that point. So I want to say that after I finished my studies at uni, I was lucky enough to find Studio Kilmitain and Hawraa Khalfan, who is over there. Extremely. Extremely lucky صراحة, and Hawraa did invest in me a lot. I was extremely interested in either the space, and I've seen, since this is the pun, Hawraa transformed me in a way. So I'm forever grateful صراحة.
It takes a good teacher to make a good teacher.
Yeah, I always say she was my mentor into this, and a few times she tried to get me into giving the workshops and stuff. But I was like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. But then eventually, once I started giving it, it was something nice, because like I never thought myself of teaching, or because I wouldn't say I'm not as certified as مثلا Dr. Jawaher in art, because like this is something I like and I enjoy, and I don't teach people art per se, but I teach them to not fear failing or playing or messing around with something that I just learned, because me myself, I think I'm still learning, and I will always want to learn, especially in the art of printmaking. There's so many things to learn. Mm-hmm. It's not you're not at one point and then that's it. So it's just like you just keep learning.
But that's the best thing about it, is that there's a process of how, when something is hard for you, you go into creative communities just to make it easier for everyone else, so they don't have to go through the experience that you went through.
I do agree, because I see a lot of people see the creative outlets such as art scene as well, and Studio Kilmitain, Art Studio Kuwait being let's say an escape, first of all, but it's a way of expressing a lot of things like they have that they couldn't express. And art is extremely expressive, as we know. And at the same time, we have the same people that fear failing, because they think they have this idea that, art needs to be perfect and all that. But no, it's all about enjoying, making mistakes. And if you want to take it to the extra level, which we encourage, obviously, it's all about experimenting and iterations as well, taking notes, like knowing where did I fail, and it's like all about documentation. And that's how we tend to encourage people, like, okay, come back, fail, document it, and keep doing it again.
I think that's a beautiful segue to Dr. Jawaher, because Dr. Jawaher, you have this incredible way of teaching in communities that you practice at Art Studio, which is, like, for lack of a better term, I want to call it an educational philosophy. Could you tell us a little bit about it?
First of all, I want to say that you do not need a PhD to be a good teacher. I think the best teachers are the ones that are the constant learners, lifelong learners. If you're excited about the subject and you're co-learning with your students or with the people that you have under, you're never a perfect teacher. You're always learning. As far as teaching philosophy is concerned, for me personally, teaching in Kuwait University, Abdullah was the first أول دفعة بالarchitecture that I taught. Yeah?
I took the last class with you.
Okay. Okay.
The last class for me before graduation.
So usually how I approach it is the third of the semester would be getting to know the students. So my syllabus is usually organic, and it's constantly changing and is reviewed on a lesson by lesson basis. I have a general idea, but every class has to change based on the class before and what we're striving for. Another thing that I work with is always having a collective project that usually happens at the end of the class. And this collective project is something that brings out the best of every student. So after figuring the student out, slowly the strength of each student becomes the thing that they offer in the collective piece that is something that they're all invested in as a group.
Yeah, I remember you told me, you guys, we were doing homework for this talk, and we were talking about, there was a phrase that you said, which was, imperfections create acceptance. And I thought that was such a beautiful way to put it. And you told me a story about a recent experience.
So I don't think of it as imperfections, but nuances. So curriculum is always differentiated. So the most recent project was working with disabled students and using the disability, or let's say the superpower of each person as an opportunity. So we do not look at the differences in students as a deficit, rather it's the thing that brings them out and makes the work more interesting and more present. So we have, tomorrow is the last day of the show, but it's work that is done with 12 disabled students that we maximized, or it's meeting the student where they're at, taking who they are and helping them express themselves authentically through whatever medium.
Yeah, and you had a collective, like it was a large painting that was made by a group of them, yeah?
Yeah, so it's a 6-meter painting. That was the final project, and every student created a stencil that represented him or her, and it was repeated throughout the whole painting, but the background was done together. So it was beautiful because they were all invested in this piece, and they all were learning how to negotiate their strength or their nuances with the other student that's next to them. So you feel the vibration of this piece when you're in front of it, and I really encourage you to go experience it. It's a 6-meter by 2-meter piece, and at the end of the day, we're all working for doing a collective work together. It's like being part of a society, a community.
The thing that's really cool here is that you talk about art as the process of creating the community. So like through like whatever, let's say you want to teach them how to do straight lines, you don't actually say this is how you start and this is how you finish. You let them do it and make their mistakes and then kind of support each other and scaffold by themselves to create the whatever it is that you need to meet that objective.
Yeah, it's having a project at the end of any project. Like project-based learning is the way teaching should be in K through 12 and university, where the students or the person is working towards an end goal. They get the skill figured out at their own pace. They do not all have to learn how to draw a triangle at the same time. Someone might be better at learning it at the end of the process because they figured out that they needed that triangle to be part of the bigger piece that they're working towards. So it's very important to think in terms of project, and people become invested because at the end of the day, they're all together as a community trying to build towards this final piece, that they all have a piece that they want to offer.
Do you think that's applicable systematically, though? Do you think that that's something that we could like incorporate nationwide?
Very easily.
How?
Having figuring out what it is that everyone wants at the end of the path. Like if the goal is clear, it might be completely different, manifested differently for each person, but accepting each other's nuances and differences, it needs a lot of tolerance. So through the process of building towards this end piece, you do a lot of work. There's a lot of fights that happen within, but it's when you create, I mean, for me, Art Studio Kuwait is a safe space where you are not allowed to criticize, but it's okay to question. Why did you do it this way? Explain it to me. So building a community where there is tolerance, we would be able to build systematically towards a common goal. It doesn't have to look the same, but at the end of the day, it's like a mosaic. You don't have to have a straight line. You can have little pieces of mosaic in their own, manifestation, whatever way, like even method could be done completely different. We just need to imagine.
I think the guy right next to you over there is currently imagining, صح?
Well, I can attest to what she's saying with the Art Diwaniya and all the projects that we did there together.
Okay, so Abdullah, you're tell me about الفن الثالث first. Like, let's kind of get into that.
First of all, I wanted to chime in and just add on that it's a pleasure to be here with all the creatives involved in this stage, but specifically Dr. Jawaher. I think her mentorship and from university and after and everything I've learned from her as well is one of the reasons why I got to the position that I'm in now, that I'm quite passionate about. And it's basically me and a couple of coworkers and my supervisor who's here as well in the audience, who are quite passionate about making change at the root level from inside the public sector. And specifically, this passion project is all about public art and communal art.
Okay, so define your role for me.
Well, I'm a public servant,
Okay.
first and foremost. Basically, I'm a manager and curator of creating a system and aliyat tanfidh for all of Kuwait in general in terms of public art pieces, whether they be murals, sculptural pieces and such. Of course, the project started off with murals, and we'd like to, expand it into something that creates, because, a lot of artists, and I've had this experience as well, being part of like the street art scene as well and having a lot of friends there, you'd go like, well, I'd like to draw a painting or a mural on this kind of like electrical substation or Sur al-Madrasa, the fences, any public infrastructure. And you'd find people just completely lost. Who do I talk to? Who do I get the permits from? What do I do? And so it's kind of trying to take care of that bureaucracy and streamlining it, keeping it in kind of like a one path that would be like a one-stop shop for the artist to easily kind of maneuver around. And at the same time, you always find the institutions kind of like making up different regulations, ma'ayir, for what these kind of like art pieces should be. So
Okay, tell me more. You said institutions. I want to hear more about this. So what شنو المعايير اللي
Well, that's what we're working on as well. It's kind of like creating a typology or like zoning ordinances for different areas, how you would approach a suburban area when you're tackling public infrastructure such as electrical substations, completely different when you're going to a sort of a commercial district where you're drawing on the side of like a multi-story building, for example. You also consider things on like eye level, colors used, that sort of thing. And so you have a lack of expertise in the other institutions to really tackle this, and it's more of like personal judgment, where someone would just look at it and go like, oh, I like this, so I'll approve it, or I feel like this is not appropriate for Kuwait, so I'll disapprove it. But there's no actual negotiation of like why. Like, for example, we've dealt with institutions where if you draw specific characters, like human figures, they'd be like, okay, and other institutions are like, no, this is not right. But like, who gets to decide that and why?
Okay, and that's when you guys chime in and come and say, this is the system. We're going to apply it. Okay, cool. بس لحظة, where do you get money for this stuff? Where does the National Council get money for this stuff?
Well, we're working on, there's a lot of the projects are funded by the National Council itself.
Okay.
But not to get into the weeds and the details, but
No, please do. We're all curious. Where do you guys get your money?
There are issues in terms of financing for sure. I mean, we know like some of the issues facing the country are primarily in the public sector. Most of the revenue goes towards salaries. So it is a bit of a struggle, especially when you're trying to convince them of like art projects, and it's like a mural. We've got roads and schools we need to take care of, hospitals,
Yeah.
But the great thing is it's, I mean, it gets done really quick compared to the other projects. We found ways to kind of like cut through the bureaucracy, and it's also honestly cheaper than everything else I just mentioned, to be quite frank.
But I mean, like us with Art Scene, we try to rely heavily on sponsors. Try to is the key word here. Try to. So when it comes to sponsors, finding sponsors in the National Council, like how does that work? Are you allowed?
Well, it tends to be that they approach us. First and foremost, it's kind of like a word of mouth where they trust us. But we also kind of like spread the word enough and share like what I'm doing right here, right now, about basically discussing what we're doing and why we're doing it and all that, and hopefully finding someone who would be interested to help sponsor and fund these projects. But some of the things that we tend to sometimes struggle with dealing with sponsors or collaborators is this whole aspect of specifically sponsors sometimes treat this as an advertisement, as if it's a billboard, and this is not. Like, this is first and foremost art, and at the end of the day also it's not really about me, but about the actual artwork and the artists, supporting them and putting their work out there to showcase for all of Kuwait. And from it, like what's related to this talk about like placemaking and changing these spaces and creating community through these projects. So it's really, comparatively to what I see a lot of sponsors doing lately in Kuwait for certain projects, it is much more of a long-term vision, kind of similar to, I think the most recent project that I can think of is the Shat Shweikh, for example, and the sponsors involved in that. It is really something that you're committing to that's culturally, from a long-term vision perspective of what you're giving back to the country as social responsibility.
Okay, so if I had $1 million KD and I was like, okay, I want to give it to the public to make art, are you saying that I can do whatever I want and say whatever I want because I'm buying that art publicly?
Not quite. First, that's too much for our project.
Okay, sure, fine. It's a hypothetical $1 million
please,
KD.
if anyone wants to chime in, you go ahead.
Yeah, please answer my questions, please.
Well, that's too little.
1,000 is good for a mural.
Switch?
You can get some done.
من وين
But
قاعد
it really
تشترون
depends
الصبغ؟
on the artist that you're dealing with. I mean, you get some artists
thinking.
who ask for absolutely no labor cost, and then you get artists who are like, no, I deserve my share in this project.
Okay, and then you said something. Okay, I have 5 minutes left. Sorry, وايد قرقت. Does that include the Q&A or like? إيه, okay, تمام شو أبي أسمع منكم. Okay, so I wanted to ask. أنت قلت creating communities through these projects. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? سالفة سالفة يوسف.
Yeah. We had that's the homework that we were doing earlier. I can go on about a lot of projects, and specifically that one that it's like when you're creating a piece, we had a specific project that was part of our cultural exchange program where we'd get an international artist with a local artist to work together, and the local artist actually brought his parents to come hang out around the mural when we were working and all that. And that interaction, especially because of how hospitable she was, and she'd like bring snacks. And at the beginning it was for the international artist, but then it expanded to whoever's passing by. She started bringing his siblings along, some of her friends, and like any passersby just stopped. And it became this daily routine and ritual that even my wife was like, oh, I want to go just to hang out there. And it created this amazing environment during the process of creating that created what we were talking about earlier about lasting memories. And I think a lot of people now have associations with that mural based on these experiences. I mean, at one point even it became like a cheerleading squad, and Yusuf's mom, who's the artist, it was just like, can I take a ride up the lift and down? And that's what kind of was happening during that time. And we have a lot of situations and instances like that, and similarly to the Missile Project, it really teaches people to feel, and this is something that's, again, we noticed in Shat Shweikh recently when it opened up, this idea of public ownership and beyond a materialist vision of what we own belonging to us, but we have a responsibility for our public spaces, for where we commute, where we go, where we enjoy ourselves, and yeah.
That's awesome. I would love to actually open up the mic. Which mic? Do we have an extra mic for a Q&A if you guys have any questions? I see Arij's hand up. Hi, Arij. Do I give her this mic? Or في mic? Oh, okay.
Hello. I think you touched on this a little bit. In community initiatives, it's probably a little bit hard, especially if it's not too profitable to like measure success. So how do you feel like you're measuring success in your day-to-day work in community?
Girl.
For everybody, obviously.
Thanks for the easy question.
I'll start. السؤال ثقيل مرة ثانية يعني إحنا دسم. طبعاً in this line يعني it's very hard to be profitable خلينا نقول. But for me يعني something that is a sign of success is having people coming back always, and people actually utilizing the space we have For example, because I remember one time, and Huda remembers this, there was an artist, Tayyiba Nassar, that was doing her final year thesis in London, and she wanted a darkroom, but she couldn't find a darkroom in London. So imagine London with the many darkrooms that it had, but it was like fully booked for the entire for a few months. So yeah, we have a darkroom here in Kuwait. So thanks to Huda and Sidi Khimyai. So she came and for us, and she was not knowledgeable, of course, but then we had the know-how as well at the same time. So having people that like Tayyiba and other people that keep coming to the studios to experiment and go beyond what we teach them. Beyond what we teach them is the thing, because like sometimes we give the workshops and all, but then people want to try something new, something else. They're just getting creative. For me, this is a sign of success, honestly. So I think space utilization is very important.
Mm-hmm. It is. Questions?
I would like to add to the question, similar to what you're saying, Abdulaziz, the fact that the students fly with after having all the know-how and then doing their own thing, like Fatma Salem with Inklab, Sheikh Al-Habji. They take the skills and then do their own thing. Yani at the end of the day, that's what you want. You want it to be an incubator for future successes. And most of the students that are, their backgrounds are in architecture, design, has nothing to do with printmaking, for example. And another student, Fatma Karam, she's doing printing on fabric now, and this is how she gets her job, is full-time working with textiles. So it's like you're opening a whole aspects for these students that wouldn't have gotten a satisfactory. They don't want to work a 9-to-5 job, and they're doing so much better than a regular job. So that's the success that I see.
With us, it's like more so just seeing a space, I guess specifically talking about the project that I'm working on, seeing a space flourish. One of our projects, like after we had done what we did on multiple electrical substations in a suburban area, we noticed the local community and the residents in that area are just totally engaged and started cleaning up spaces, planting in roundabouts and gardening and landscaping. And there's this idea of like when you see them kind of like taking care of their space, to me that is a sign of success and just generally engagement with our projects as well.
I think that's a beautiful way to put it. I think a major, we have another question, yay. Okay. I was gonna just ramble on and on a little bit more.
Thank you all. Usually, community initiative usually start with passion, but at some point they struggle to scale. In your experience, how do you think you can evolve the local experience without losing the authenticity into that kind of initiatives?
Girl, it's the question I ask myself every morning as I put on my eyeliner. I'm like, don't lose your soul, but do it, keep doing it.
So for us, the minute it doesn't give back to our practice, that's when it doesn't serve. For example, the Art Duaniya is something that began, I think it ran for over 4 years, and now it's on hold, it's incubating, because now we're incubating and working on, for example, my practice. I think for artists, for them to continue giving, you have to work on your art practice. There's no way you can continue if you don't flourish internally, so that you can be giving and continue to give.
I think in art scene we do a thing where we remind ourselves and our community that there is always going to be space for us, and as long as that we remind ourselves of that, we incorporate it into our daily lives. And I would love to leave on a note to urge everyone here to, you know, pick up a pen and doodle, you know, make a thing. Even if you don't think it's perfect, it really doesn't matter if it's perfect or not. It's about the process of creating and how you feel while you're doing it. Not everything has to be a finished product, and I'm gonna drop the mic right now. Okay, thank you for coming.